I became a ghost, possessing a courtesan, and married the notorious treacherous official of the court. He doted on me endlessly, yet in his dreams, he always called out a name. I was shocked to the core. It was my maiden name from when I was alive. How did he know? Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Xiao Yuming is the current chief minister, and I have become his 18th concubine. That night, the moonlight was like silk, and the auspicious incense in the green cauldron drifted out in wisps. I sat upright by the bedside, my delicate silk robe barely concealing my fair, jade-like skin. Xiao Yuming stepped in under the cover of night. I immediately blossomed into a charming smile and bowed gracefully. Greetings, my lord. He sat down directly by the bedside, hands resting on his knees. You sing quite well. During the day, the madam had us practice singing on stage. I only knew one song, Moon in My Heart. So I mustered my courage and sang it. Xiao Yuming's sedan chair passed by outside. He heard my singing, barged straight into the house of joy, and without a word, took out 1,000 taels of gold to redeem me. I know I sing averagely, and I don't understand why he took a liking to me. He looked at me with deep, dark eyes. Sing it again. Yes, my lord. I swayed my waist and sang a passage with a lilting voice. Spring crabapple, red sleeves fragrant. Fine hours and fair scenes inspire splendid verses. Autumn's crisp eve, reeds sere. I rest on my zither, listening to rain, gazing at mandarin ducks. Raising my head, I see the moon in the sky, yet it pales beside you in my heart. Xiao Yuming frowned and asked, "Where did you learn that?" Replying to you, sir. I wrote the lyrics myself and had someone set them to music. I casually told a lie. That's a folk tune from my hometown. I used to sing it often while washing clothes at home. Rong Yang enjoyed listening to me sing, so he rewrote the lyrics for this melody. Xiao Yuming's expression was inscrutable, and I couldn't quite read it. After a long while, he finally nodded and said, "Not bad." I quietly let out a sigh of relief. Even before entering the mansion, I knew that Xiao Yuming was far from a kind person. The current emperor is young, and Xiao Yuming has taken the opportunity to monopolize the court's power. With half of the court officials secretly pledging allegiance to him, someone once accused him of usurping power and was slain on the spot by Xiao Yuming's sword, blood splattering everywhere. If he is so cruel to court officials, how much more so to the women in his household? A dancer who tried to flee his residence in secret had her hands and feet severed by him. There was also a respectable woman he had forcibly taken, who, because she did not cooperate with him in bed, was enraged by him and sent to become a camp prostitute. No one who angered him could survive. I have died once before and know that nothing ventured, nothing gained. The sisters at the brothel said that Xiao Yuming liked beautiful women with talent and charm, but in bed, he played wild and preferred beauties to throw themselves into his arms. My voice is soft and delicate. I will help you change your clothes, my lord. I kneel down to remove his boots, silently letting the sheer gauze slip from my arms, allowing him a perfect view of my curvaceous figure from his angle. No need. He pulls his leg away from my hands, seemingly displeased. My heart tightens. Did I do something wrong? I carefully observed his expression, steeled my heart, bit my lower lip, and slipped off my clothes completely. Then, I casually leaned my delicate body against him. My lord, be gentle with me, please. Xiao Yuming's gaze was deep and unreadable. Remaining unmoved at first, just as I began to doubt myself, I felt a light pinch at my waist. Caught off guard, I pushed him away, covering my waist as I giggled uncontrollably. I'm most ticklish there, and others can't easily touch it. I never expected that even after changing bodies, I'd still be this sensitive. Oh no, I've offended Xiao Yuming now. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yuming didn't get angry. After a few shifts in his gaze, a smile emerged between his brows and eyes, and he suddenly scooped me up in his arms. So it turns out, he likes it this way. I obediently wrapped my arms around his neck, and together we tumbled into the crimson silk canopy. Having witnessed all sorts of romantic encounters in the brothel, I had picked up a few tricks. I did my best to please him between the sheets, soon breaking into a fragrant sweat. He held me in his arms, stroking my back gently. What was your name again? Annoying. I poked his broad chest. I'm called Ching Chen. Even though it wasn't my body, I still felt utterly humiliated, yet I could only suppress all my anger and grievances in my heart, showing on my face nothing but pleasure, flattery, and enjoyment. From then on, Xiao Yuming stayed overnight in my lotus pavilion every night. Xiao Yuming's wife had long passed away, and I became his most favored concubine. Xiao Yuming was so fond of me that he showered me with jewelry and fine silks as if they were flowing water. The other wives and concubines were already green with envy, they had once been favored too, but none had ever received such treatment. Apart from the title, I was treated no less than the principal wife, yet I was never happy. Xiao Yuming was just seeking a moment of novelty, treating me as a plaything. But it doesn't matter, to me, he is merely a tool for revenge. My husband is Rong Yang. I married him 3 years ago and have been a dutiful wife, working tirelessly, mending clothes, and living frugally, all so he could earn scholarly honors and fulfill his lifelong ambition. Even the expenses for his journey to the capital for the imperial exams were covered by my dowry. In the blink of an eye, the news of Rong Yang becoming the 3rd top scholar reached our remote countryside. Overjoyed, I eagerly awaited his glorious return to his hometown, only to be met with a great fire. The house I had lived in for 3 years was burned down, the raging flames dyed the night sky red, and thick smoke spread across half the village. Fortunately, I noticed it in time, covered my mouth and nose, and ran out. The forest was deep and silent, the night wind rustling the branches, and the distant mountains seemed to echo with the howls of wolves. Suddenly, a white flash swept by, the blade reflecting a dazzling light. It didn't hurt much, my neck felt cold and a little numb. I fell straight down, eyes wide open. The last image in my pupils being the figure in black wiping blood from the blade. Let's go, back to report to Lord Rong. Lord Rong. These 3 words vibrated through my eardrums and killed my heart. It is true that once a man rises to power, the first to be cast aside is his wife of humble origins. No wonder the fire at home burned so suspiciously. But Rong Yang, after 3 years of deep marital love, how could you bring yourself to harm me? I let out a long, grief-stricken cry that stirred a sudden gust of wind, sending fallen leaves swirling and branches trembling, as if the entire forest shuddered. The man in black was terrified, shouting a ghost, as he fled in panic. He was merely the assassin. The true culprit was my husband. I want Rong Yang to pay with his blood. I became a wandering ghost, drifting aimlessly for a long time, until I finally reached the capital. Rong Yang lived in a grand mansion bestowed by the emperor, with 2 imposing stone lions crouching at the entrance, and the brass rings on the door gleaming in the sunlight. I tried several times to force my way in, but the Rong residence's gate was plastered with talismans to ward off evil. The talismans burned me so badly I nearly lost my soul. Qinfang Pavilion was the most extravagant pleasure house in the capital, heavy with yin energy. I hid there to restore my soul. Listening to the women talk about the talented young Tanhua Lang, who was soon to marry the princess. Later, I possessed the body of a courtesan who had lost the will to live and took her place as Xiao Yuming's concubine. Now, I'm just waiting for an opportunity. The moment I lay eyes on Rong Yang, I'll take his life without a second thought. The opportunity soon arrived. Rong Yang paid a visit, and Xiao Yuming received him in the front hall. I brewed the tea myself, dressed up in front of the mirror, and gracefully made my way to the front hall. I wasn't sure which cup Rong Yang would drink from, so to prevent any mishaps, I poisoned both. Xiao Yuming had been tormenting me in bed with all sorts of tricks these past few days. I was utterly disgusted. Besides, a corrupt official like him deserved to die. Rong Yang, with the chief minister of the court accompanying you to hell, you should be content. At this thought, my steps quickened, just as I was about to reach the front hall. Someone blocked my path. Yaoji was Xiao Yuming's 9th concubine, dressed flamboyantly, and rumored to have come from a brothel. Once favored by Xiao Yuming, she has now suddenly fallen out of favor and is taking out her frustration on me. Oh, when did the task of serving tea and water fall to you, little sister? Could it be that you heard the imperial scholar is here and your heart is fluttering, eager to catch a glimpse of him? A cold smile curled at the corner of my lips, and I had no desire to engage with her. Qing Chen, you seem to have changed. I kept walking forward, with only one thought in my mind, revenge. Yaoji blocked my path and taunted, you never step out of your house on ordinary days, but as soon as Lord Rong arrives, you send your maid out to inquire. If you say there's nothing fishy about this, I don't believe it. I don't care if you believe it or not, I'm fed up. So I pick up a cup of tea and splash it onto her face. The tea, cooled by the breeze, isn't too hot. She covers her face, shrieking and wailing, and with a glance out of the corner of her eye, she seems to spot a savior and dashes behind me. My lord, please stand up for your humble servant. At some point, Xiao Yuming has emerged from the front hall. There was a figure in an indigo official's robe, half hidden by the plane tree, who disappeared after turning past the flower wall. My heart sank. Did Rong Yang just walk away alive like that? My gaze followed his figure, giving Yaoji even more room to perform. My lord, Qing Chen has been staring at Lord Rong with such infatuation. I told you she has ulterior motives. Even back at Qinfang Pavilion, she was never trustworthy. I quickly averted my gaze, while Xiao Yuming looked at me thoughtfully. Taking me by surprise, Yaoji suddenly snatched the other cup of tea and presented it to Xiao Yuming as if offering a treasure. My lord, this is the tea Qing Chen prepared for you. She added something to it. If you don't believe me, have someone test it and you'll see. Xiao Yuming took the teacup, smiled faintly, and took my hand. Is this tea for me? He pried my fingers open one by one, placed the teacup in my hand, and there was a hint of tenderness in his phoenix-like eyes. You feed me. I forced a smile. Sir, the tea has gone cold. Ha, not so brave now, are you? Yaoi couldn't hold back her smile, a piece of tea leaf stuck to her cheek fluttering down. Xiao Yuming shot her a disdainful glance and asked me, did you splash it? I was just trying to bring tea for you, sir. But then Sister Yaoi suddenly appeared. My mind raced, but my palms were sweating nervously. He suddenly interrupted me. You splashed her to test the tea temperature for me, right? Ah, yes. Pour this cup on her face too. I was shocked. Yaoji was stunned. What is Xiao Yuming up to? Making an example to warn others? Or is he brewing a bigger move to deal with me? Only then did I realize how gravely mistaken I was. Who is Xiao Yuming? A man who holds the power of life and death. With so many concubines in his mansion, what he despises most is jealousy and rivalry among them. My pitiful act in his eyes was childish and not worth a second glance. This is simply asking for trouble. In a daze, the hand holding the teacup was enveloped by a larger one. He guided my movement, splashing this cup onto Yaoji's face as well. Yaoji didn't dare to dodge. Nor did she have time to, only then realizing she had angered Xiao Yuming, her forehead bleeding from the impact. Spare me, my lord, I know I was wrong. I will never dare again. Now it's my turn. My legs went weak, and I was about to kneel as well, but someone firmly supported me by the waist from behind. Xiao Yuming tucked a stray strand of my hair behind my ear. It's chilly outside, are you feeling unwell? I responded vaguely, my mind already out of control. The next moment, he scooped me up in his arms. In front of countless servants, he carried me all the way from outside the main hall to the Lotus Pavilion. I buried my face deep in his chest, not daring to look into his eyes. That was a close call. If he had someone test that tea, this body of mine would have been done for. Where would I ever find such a suitable body again? Fortunately, in the Lotus Pavilion, he placed me on a clean table and kissed my forehead. I lowered my head and said, I've troubled you. My lord, then how do you plan to reward me? I immediately understood his meaning and, with a shy expression, began to undo his clothes. Let's save that for tonight. He held my hand and asked, can you cook? I'd like to taste your skills. Of course I can. But how could a courtesan from the brothel know how to cook? I cleverly replied, whatever you wish to eat, my lord, I will learn to make for you. Xiao Yuming looked up and thought for a moment before asking seriously. Scallion oil braised chicken, is that possible? Hearing the name of the dish, I was taken aback. Xiao Yuming is a native of the capital city. How could he love eating this so much? Braised chicken with scallion oil is a specialty of my hometown. Nanping village, Rong Yang used to love it the most, but the chickens at home were mostly kept for laying eggs or taken to the market to sell. We couldn't bear to eat them on ordinary days, only having a meal with chicken during festivals or special occasions. Before Rong Yang left for the capital to take the imperial exams, I made an exception and killed a chicken for him. I couldn't bear to eat much myself and just kept nibbling on steamed buns, as usual. He placed my favorite chicken wings onto my plate. My dear, if I pass the imperial examination this time, I will never let you down. You will surely succeed. In the future, we can eat whatever we want. You won't have to work so hard anymore. When I become an official, I'll hand over all my salary to you. You can buy whatever you wish. He held my hand. Sweet words still linger in my ears. And now thinking back, it feels even more ironic, even though only hatred remains. The thought of it still breaks my heart, nearly bringing me to tears. To hide my emotions, I took the chance to bury myself in Xiao Yuming's arms. Pretending to be coquettish, he gently patted my back. Those who didn't know might have thought he was comforting me. After Xiao Yuming left, I immediately buried myself in the kitchen. To cover up the fact that I actually knew how to cook, I deliberately burned a few chickens and nearly blew up the kitchen, making a huge scene. All to show how much I cared for the chief minister. After many failures, I finally succeeded. On a day with gentle breezes and warm sunshine, it was served on Xiao Yuming's table. Xiao Yuming stared at the braised chicken with scallion oil on the plate. as if entranced, not moving his chopsticks for a long time. When he looked up again, his eyes were filled with emotion, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Was it tenderness, compassion, or guilt, inexplicable and indescribable? I must have seen wrong, I hurriedly asked, but is the food I made not to your liking, my lord? No, his lips trembled slightly. The food you make is the most delicious in the world. I was stunned. Your Excellency, you clearly haven't touched a single bite with your chopsticks. He pulled me to sit down and had another pair of chopsticks brought over. From now on, we'll eat together. All right, my lady. Seeing that I didn't dare to respond, he asked again. He called me madam. Only the principal wife is entitled to be addressed in this manner. I am just one of his countless concubines, and with my background from a brothel, him calling me that is like asking for my life. I was so frightened that I was about to kneel again, but he caught me in time and personally pressed me into a chair, placing me on equal footing with him. Madam, there's no need to be reserved, and even less need to fear me. He picked up a chicken wing and placed it on my plate. His movements smooth and fluid, as if he had done it many times before. I say you are my wife, so you are my wife. Only then did he pick up a piece of meat and put it into his own mouth, chewing it with great relish and exclaiming, "This is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten." The meal left me feeling unsettled, with mixed emotions swirling inside, yet Xiao Yuming ate with great relish. For a high-ranking official like him, it was as if he had never tasted anything so delicious. Perhaps accustomed to the flavors of the capital, he found the local specialty snacks a refreshing change. Seeing him in good spirits, I cautiously brought up the topic. I heard that Lord Rong is about to marry the princess. Will you be attending the wedding, my lord? He lowered his gaze and said in a deep voice, yes. Could you take me along to witness the ceremony? With Yaroji's harsh words still lingering, I feared he might misunderstand, so I quickly added, I wish to see what a princess of noble birth looks like. Okay, he agreed readily, and my heart swelled with joy. Please, have some more to eat. Xiao Yuming treats me with an excessive amount of kindness. He rises early for court each day, dressing and leaving quietly without my even hearing a sound. I don't have to get up early to help him wash and dress like the other concubines do. But ever since I came to the residence, Xiao Yuming has never visited any of the other courtyards. He seems to have changed a lot, not as intimidating as the rumors suggest. The weather is fine today, and I personally made some pastries to deliver to Xiao Yuming. There was a middle-aged man in official robes there as well. He leaned in and whispered a few words into Xiao Yuming's ear. From a distance, I could see Xiao Yuming's expression change immediately. Xiao Yuming said to me, "This official has important matters to discuss with Lord Ju. Please return and rest for now, my lady." I had no choice but to obediently put down the pastry and leave as told. Then I hid behind the wall to peek. I saw Xiao Yuming draw his sword and stab the middle-aged man in official robes. I covered my mouth in fright, trying to stifle my gasp. The middle-aged man had no time to utter a word before he collapsed in a pool of blood. Xiao Yuming, as if gone mad, stabbed him repeatedly with his sword, leaving his body mangled and bloody. I dared not look any longer, staggering back to the Lotus Pavilion. My legs gave way and I collapsed to the ground. Xiao Yuming was still Xiao Yuming. No matter how gentle he appeared to me, he remained the ruthless chief minister of the court, who regarded human life as worthless as grass. I was so scared that I couldn't sleep all night. Fortunately, Xiao Yuming didn't come that night. In the following days, I didn't dare to look for him, not knowing what he was busy with. I heard he had killed a few people every night before going to bed. I pretended to be asleep. He would sit by my bed and watch me for a while before leaving. When I woke up that day, I found myself nestled against a warm chest, with Xiao Yuming's arms wrapped around me, gently kissing my forehead. "Didn't you have to attend the court, my lord? Today is a day off, I'll stay with you." He stayed in bed with me, had breakfast with me, helped me water all the flowers in the yard, and then offered to accompany me for a stroll on East Market Street. Before we reached the end of the market street, my hair bun was already adorned with pearls and jade he had personally placed. To be honest, wearing too much jewelry looks tacky, but he seemed to be in high spirits, holding my hand all the way and whistling leisurely. The most expensive thing I had ever worn before was a silver hairpin. Back then, I truly envied the wealthy girls who could wear beautiful, never-repeating jewelry every day. Rong Yang once said that once he achieved success and fame, he would never let me envy others again. "These look beautiful on you, my lady." Xiao Yuming slipped a pair of golden-laid jade bracelets onto my wrist. They looked incredibly valuable at first glance. He seemed very pleased, as if he had fulfilled a long-held wish. "Whatever else you want, madam, just buy it." I gave a faint, bitter smile. These days, I no longer care for such worldly possessions. On the way back to the residence, I said I didn't want to take the carriage and preferred to walk around, pretending to pass by the Rome mansion unintentionally. From a distance, I could already feel the talisman's intimidating power, preventing me from getting any closer. I pointed at the vermilion gate and asked with an innocent expression, "What is that pasted there?" "A talisman to ward off evil spirits." A distinguished scholar who has read the sage's books, how could he still believe in such superstitious nonsense? I covered my mouth and chuckled. "You make a fair point, my lady," he said, gazing in the same direction as I was. "When I meet this scholar, I shall certainly reprimand him. Only by removing that talisman can I get close to the Rome residence." I linked arms with Xiao Yuming, smiling sweetly at him. Xiao Yuming also bought a huge floor-length bronze mirror and had it moved to my bedchamber. The bronze mirror in the Furong Pavilion is sufficient for my dressing needs. "My lord, why did you buy this one?" He leaned in and gently nibbled my earlobe. "You'll find out tonight." For a while after that, every time I saw that bronze mirror, I would blush uncontrollably. Yet Xiao Yuming had become addicted to the game and wouldn't let me move it away. I kept thinking about the Rome residence, wanting to check whether the talisman had been removed. As a spirit, it was only convenient to leave my body at night. But as dusk fell each day, Xiao Yuming would always cling to me obsessively. That evening, he was kept in the palace by the emperor, and I finally managed to slip away. The evil warding talisman on the Rome residence's gate was gone. I bypassed the night watchman, smoothly slipped through the main gate, skirted the rockeries and ancient willows, and drifted lightly toward the main house. The main house was spacious, with all the tables and chairs made of fine pearwood, and the other furnishings and utensils were anything but ordinary. Rong Yang once admired the beauty of simplicity, but now, having gained the emperor's favor, his status has changed, and his expenditures are on par with those of the current prime minister. For some reason, my heart suddenly started pounding fiercely, even though I had long given up on him. I felt their apprehension of nearing home. The sound of a basin being kicked over came from the inner chamber, startling me and forcing me to quickly withdraw my thoughts. "Can you even serve properly? Get out. Please forgive me, my lord." Several maids lowered their heads and filed out of the room, bowing as they went. I frowned. This voice, something's not right. This is the Rome residence, the home of the current imperial examination's third-ranked scholar, no mistake. The person resting in the inner chamber could only be the master of the residence, Rong Yang, and no one else. But why did that male voice just now sound completely different from Rong Yang's? I quickly drifted inside. The face I saw was completely different from Rong Yang's. Not a single similarity in face, physique, demeanor, or voice. If there had to be a commonality, it would be that both were men and appeared to be around the same age. Why was this the case? The person before me is clearly not my husband. The top 3 scholars in the imperial examination are publicly announced with detailed information. There can be no mistake. This year's third-place scholar, Rong Yang, courtesy name Zhuxi, hails from Nanping village and is 25 years old. He is indeed my husband. Who is the person before me now? Where has the real Rong Yang gone? I came to the capital filled with hatred, intending to kill the man who betrayed and harmed me. But everything turned out differently than I had imagined. I thought that tonight I would finally achieve my revenge, free myself from Xiao Yuming's entanglement, and never have to endure such humiliation again. I didn't expect things to go against my wishes, so I had to return to the Xiao residence first, relying on Xiao Yuming's influence to slowly uncover the truth. Xiao Yuming happened to return just then. He lifted the curtain and stepped out of the sedan chair, and the steward hurried over with a lantern to greet him. The moonlight was bright, casting a clear glow inside and outside the courtyard. I followed them at a distance, neither too close nor too far, hoping to hear what they were saying. "Sir, the treasury silver and the valuables from the mansion have all been accounted for. The records are here." Xiao Yuming walked while casually flipping through the ledger and said, "From now on, all authority over household management will be handed over to the lady. Give her the keys to the treasury as well. How the money is spent is up to her." The steward paused for a moment and cautiously asked, "Are you referring to the 18th concubine?" Xiao Yuming corrected, "I regard Qing Chen as my wife." Yes. "Remember, the money must be clean in origin. Do not dirty madam's hands." The steward repeatedly agreed, then added, "Will you be going to madam's chamber tonight, my lord?" Xiao Yuming stood with his hands behind his back, looked up at the moon, and said clearly, "If I return late in the future, just tell the lady to rest first. There's no need to wait for me." After hearing this, my heart felt heavy. The treacherous minister Xiao Yuming had actually developed genuine feelings for me. He not only dotes on me but even entrusted me with the authority to manage the household, always following my words and wishes. Which often makes me wonder how I could possess such great charm. Unconsciously, I followed him all the way to the door of the room. No, I still need to go check on her. Xiao Yuming suddenly turned around, his pupils widening abruptly. My guilty conscience made me think he had seen me, and I was startled. I then covered my chest, relieved to think, I'm in ghost form now, so he can't see me. The steward, holding a lantern, had already led him in the direction of the Lotus Pavilion. I hurriedly floated back to the Lotus Pavilion ahead of him. Qingchen's body lay on the bed, and as I possessed it, I quickly got up to tidy my appearance. Xiao Yuming arrived very soon. He seemed different tonight, as if he had something to say, hesitating several times. Even when he looked at me, his gaze was filled with deep affection. I knew what he was thinking. I puffed out my cheeks in a coquettish manner, swaying my shoulders and lightly stomping my feet. My lord, I've been waiting for you all night. My heart has been in turmoil. Xiao Yuming curved the corners of his lips into a smile and said, How has it been in turmoil? I cast a flirtatious glance sideways, took his hand and placed it over my heart, saying in a sweet voice, Listen, does my heart not beat wildly with panic? He was indeed taken in by this act. In the throes of passion, he was as gentle as water with me, as if he were trying to please me, and I, too, was swept away in ecstasy, losing all sense of time and place. In a daze, I almost thought I had returned to the days when I was deeply in love with Rong Yang. I nearly called out Rong Yang's name, breaking into a cold sweat from the close call. Fortunately, Xiao Yuming was tolerant and generous towards me, only pausing gently to kiss me softly. The night grew late, and the moonlight filtered through the carved lattice window, tracing beautiful patterns on the floor. I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Xiao Yuming was asleep, his brows tightly furrowed, sleeping very restlessly. I actually had an impulse to reach out and smooth the furrow between his brows. I restrained myself just in time, annoyed. How could I have such a thought? Lana, I answered without thinking. Xiao Yuming suddenly woke from his nightmare, propping himself up on his arms, cold sweat still beading on his forehead. I was so frightened that I lost my composure. Lana was my childhood name in Nanping village before I passed away. Did you have a nightmare, my lord? I quickly lit the lamp and gently wiped the cold sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Gasping for breath, he finally calmed down and asked, Was I talking in my sleep just now? I shook my head. I just woke up and didn't hear clearly. Did I scare you? He held me in his arms, resting his chin on my shoulder like a big child. Just now, I dreamed of my wife. It turns out that Xiao Yuming's first wife was also named Lana. Understanding his feelings, I gently comforted him. The late madam, in heaven, must remember your deep affection and devotion. He sighed, his brows furrowed with an unshakable sorrow. Yes, we were married for such a short time. We hadn't even finished the lifetime we promised each other. And then unexpectedly, we are now worlds apart. A single candlestick cast a faint light through the bed curtains. His eyes brimmed with sorrow as he held me and lay back down. I pressed against his chest, and a deep voice came from above my head. In the heavens, we wish to be two birds flying together. On earth, two trees with branches intertwined. Even the heavens and the earth may someday come to an end, but this sorrow of ours shall last forever and ever. Suddenly, something began to stir in my heart, ready to burst forth. Tonight, I simply cannot fall asleep. He was sleeping soundly, and in his dreams, he still held my hand tightly, as if afraid I would run away. After daybreak, Xiao Yuming went to court as usual, and I couldn't wait to get up. I stared at his retreating figure, which had the imposing presence of the chief minister of the court. Yet, it was so like him. My heart was beating faster and faster, and I stood leaning against the doorframe as if possessed, not even noticing when the steward approached. He handed me the account book and the roster, his attitude extremely respectful. His lordship has said that the authority of managing the household is now entrusted to the 18th madam. We will rely on your care from now on. Madam, I am a concubine. It is not appropriate to address me as madam. I took the account book and the roster, flipping through a few pages with an air of seriousness, and casually remarked, although the lady has passed away many years ago, the master was deeply devoted to her. The butler observed my expression and cautiously said, The master is deeply devoted to you. In the past, he never. I had a rough idea of what he was trying to say, so I asked directly, I have been in the mansion for quite some time, yet I still do not know the name of the late lady. I fear I might unintentionally offend in future conversations, so I hope you can tell me. Yes, The steward glanced around before whispering. The former lady's maiden name was Chen Shiting. Chen Shiting, Nolan character. How did the master used to address the lady? The butler was startled by me, thought for a moment, and said, when the master is happy, he calls her madam, when he's unhappy, he calls her Chencha, and rarely uses her given name. You, what's wrong with you? I waved my hand, signaling the butler to leave and closed the door behind him. I slumped into the chair in my room, and the past events vividly surfaced in my mind, after arriving at this residence. The Xiao Yuming I saw was very different from the one I had heard about before. Many people in the mansion whispered privately that the chief minister had recently undergone a drastic change in temperament. He was not like his former self, he seemed like a completely different person. He loves to eat braised chicken with scallion oil, and he always picks out the chicken wings for me first. He likes to gently nibble on my earlobes, and he knows exactly where I'm ticklish around my waist, deliberately making me laugh and get annoyed at the same time. Even the way he walks, the way he adjusts his robe, and the way he holds a brush all give me a strange sense of familiarity. If all of these could be explained away as mere coincidences, then, how should we explain the Lana he called out in his midnight dreams? I had no idea what Xiao Yuming was busy with. I waited anxiously all day, and by the time I heard he had returned to the estate, the night had already deepened. I simply detached from my physical body, transforming into a wisp of a soul, and drifted toward the main chamber. Under the moonlight, the shadows of the crabapple blossoms layered upon each other. Through the branches veiling the window, Xiao Yuming sat at his desk, brush in hand, writing. This scene feels warm and familiar to me. Perhaps I brought in a gust of wind as I drifted in, making the lamp flicker. Xiao Yuming lifted his eyelids slightly, then lowered his head again. Still pretending not to see me, this heartless wretch, I leaned on the table in front of him, blowing a puff of air toward his face. He remained unmoved. I blinked at him, stuck out my tongue, and made a funny face. He remained unmoved, growing a little annoyed. I snatched the scroll from his hand, my gaze falling back on the pages scattered by the table. He suddenly looked up, his gaze also falling on that piece of paper, but I was a step faster, seeing the handwriting on it. I immediately felt a chill run down my spine. Having had someone by my side adding fragrance to my sleeves for years, I was all too familiar with Rong Yang's handwriting. This is Rong Yang's handwriting. What shocked me even more was the content on it. Nanping village, the place where I had lived for 3 years, had been hit by a mountain fire, and the entire village was burned to ashes. Not a single villager survived. Even as a ghost, I trembled violently, so unsteady on my feet that I nearly collapsed to the ground. Xiao Yuming hurried over, supporting me with both hands. No, to be precise, it was Rong Yang's ghost that walked over. He moved so quickly that his spirit detached from Xiao Yuming's body, leaving it to slump limply over the desk like a puppet without support. Rong Yang helped me up, his eyes filled with concern. Lana, he called me gently as he always did, his voice as pleasing as unpolished jade. I understood everything now, and I cried while hitting him. You heartless man, you've deceived me for so long. Why didn't you tell me? Was it fun to fool me? I'm dead, you're dead. Everyone in Nanping village is dead. What on earth is going on? My tears had already burst forth uncontrollably. He held me tightly in his arms and began to cry as well. The world is cold and unfeeling, and I'm so afraid you might misunderstand me as someone heartless and ungrateful. These hands have been stained with so much blood lately. The path of revenge is fraught with dangers. I want to finish what I need to do, and then reunite with you with a clean slate. But, Lana, believe me, those I killed were all wicked people. But I, Rong Yang, have never wronged you. I sniffled, wiping my tears on his clothes. What exactly happened? After the imperial examination ended, Rong Yang stayed in a humble inn in the capital, awaiting the announcement of the exam results. However, on the night before the results were to be posted, just as he had extinguished the candle and was about to rest, he suddenly heard the sound of the door lock being picked. He quickly dressed and went to see, only to find several men in black had already kicked the door open. Without a word, they struck Rong Yang on the head, threw a sack over him, and took him away. When Rong Yang woke up, he found himself tightly bound and locked in a cramped, windowless room. Seated on an ornate armchair was a middle-aged man in luxurious silk robes, Xiao Yuming. Xiao Yuming narrowed his eyes and asked, "The top 2 scholars have already acknowledged me as their benefactor. What are your thoughts?" Honored third-rank scholar, Rong Yang was first taken aback. "I came in third. The results won't be announced until tomorrow. How do you know, sir?" The top 3 candidates in the imperial examination were personally selected by the emperor, and until the day the results were announced, No one but the emperor himself could see the names. Xiao Yuming slowly stroked his beard and smiled without saying a word. Rong Yang had no time to rejoice. Already anticipating what he would face next, the current chief grand secretary, Xiao Yuming, monopolized state power, was notorious for his evil deeds, and known throughout the land. He not only won over more than half of the court officials, but also did not spare the newly recruited talents who passed the imperial examinations. Rong Yang, being an upright person, naturally refused to collude with him. If he refused, he feared the road ahead would be difficult. Xiao Yuming saw his hesitation, walked over, and looked down at him. "Young man, I ask you, what was the purpose of your years of diligent study?" He expected Rong Yang to say something like to get promoted and make a fortune, to bring honor to my ancestors. With his heart in his mouth and his hands tied, Rong Yang spoke word by word, using the humblest posture to deliver the most resolute words, to establish a moral foundation for the universe, to secure a livelihood for the people, to carry on the lost teachings of past sages, and to open the way for eternal peace. These were the words of Zhongzai, which Rong Yang had loved most during his studies and often kept on his lips. Xiao Yuming looked at him in astonishment, then after a long while, he curled his lips and let out a scornful laugh. "The top 2 scholars were just as stubborn as you at first, but after I offered them some conditions, they quickly wavered." Xiao Yuming lifted Rong Yang's chin, forcing him to meet his gaze. The first 2 had studied for most of their lives and were very old. "You're different, you're the youngest top 3 candidate in the history of the imperial examinations. I have high hopes for you, which is why I'm being more patient with you. If you pledge your loyalty to me, I will have the young emperor betroth the Jade Marrow princess to you. How does that sound?" he coaxed persuasively, offering what he believed to be the most tempting condition. Rong Yang replied, "I already have a wife at home, and our bond is as deep as the sea. I would rather die than betray her." Xiao Yuming's eyes flickered with changing emotions. He took a deep breath, slowly straightened his back, and sneered, "Would you rather die? You have truly disappointed this official. Since your heart is not sincere, this official will not force you." Rong Yang, seeing the look in his eyes, retreated several steps in fear. "I am the top scholar personally selected by the Son of Heaven. If anything happens to me tonight, the emperor will surely send someone to investigate. Aren't you afraid?" Xiao Yuming ignored his words, flicked his sleeve, and left. Rong Yang was held down by several guards and forced to drink a cup of poisoned wine. Dawn broke, the day of the imperial examination results arrived, and a crowd gathered in front of the announcement board. The Ministry of Rights officials led the group into the small inn and read the imperial edict. "Third rank in the imperial examination, Rong Yang." The innkeeper appeared especially delighted and rushed with the others toward the small, shabby room where Rong Yang stayed. "Lord Rong, congratulations on your success." The door of the shabby room swung open, and a young man dressed in coarse clothing stepped out, politely cupping his hands in salute to everyone. "I am Rong Yang, grateful for everyone's kindness." "Not him, I am Rong Yang, innkeeper, waiter. Don't you recognize me anymore?" The real Rong Yang rushed up to them, loudly pleading. No one could hear him speak, no one could see him. The people in the inn seemed to have lost their memories. No one realized that this Rong Yang was not the same Rong Yang who had been staying here all along. The surroundings were bustling with noise, and everyone's gaze was fixed on the fake Rong Yang, offering him congratulations, smiling at him, and hanging a jubilant red flower on his chest. Only then did Rong Yang suddenly remember that he was already dead. In the ink-black night of the previous evening, his corpse had been thrown into the mass grave outside the city. A man of similar age, impersonating his identity, rode a tall horse amidst a crowd of admirers. Dressed in fine clothes and riding a spirited horse, he was celebrated by all. Having achieved academic success, he brought honor to his ancestors. This was a scene he had envisioned for many years, the lifelong dream he had cherished. 10 years of arduous study, all gone up in smoke in a single day. His Lana was still waiting eagerly in Nanping village, but she would never see him again. If a person suffers a great injustice before death, with resentment accumulating and refusing to dissipate, and if that person harbors an intense obsession, they may transform into a vengeful spirit, unable to re-enter the cycle of reincarnation until they exact revenge on those who wronged them. The man impersonating Rong Yang was called Jiao Mingyuan, but the culprit was Xiao Yuming. On countless deep nights, Rong Yang's spirit drifted into Xiao Yuming's room. When Xiao Yuming walked, he would often trip over invisible things for no apparent reason. When Xiao Yuming was indulging in pleasure, the candles in the room would suddenly go out, and a chilling wind would rush into the bed curtains, sending shivers down his spine. The ink in Xiao Yuming's inkstone suddenly turned into blood. Such strange occurrences happened frequently. Over time, his mental state deteriorated, he lay bedridden, muttering incoherent words, and many physicians were at a loss for a cure. Suddenly one day, Xiao Yuming woke up. Though his temperament had drastically changed, no one dared to say anything due to his power and authority. Rong Yang, possessing Xiao Yuming's body, used the days of feigning illness to carefully imitate his every word and action. Gradually getting acquainted with the visiting court officials and learning about court affairs, later, he simply replaced Xiao Yuming in attending court sessions. The current emperor was only 23 years old, timid and weak-willed, obediently following the directives of the prime minister, but Rong Yang could see that the emperor's show of weakness was merely a temporary strategy. Deep down, the emperor yearned to achieve great things. Yet with all the court's power concentrated in Xiao Yuming's hands, he had no choice but to bide his time and endure for the moment. That day after court, Rong Yang wanted to go out to clear his mind. As he passed by the happy red courtyard, a familiar song drifted out from within: spring crabapple, red sleeves fragrant, fine hours and fair scenes inspire fine verses, autumn's crisp evening, reeds turning sere, lying with a zither, listening to rain, gazing at mandarin ducks, looking up. One can see the moon in the sky, but it pales next to having you in my heart. Those were the lyrics he had written for his wife. Lana was far away in Nanping village. How could this song have made its way to the capital? He suddenly understood. Xiao Yuming had someone impersonate him and would certainly leave no evidence behind. Lana must have already fallen victim to his plot. He immediately took the woman named Qing Chen back with him. That day, Xiao Yuming's most loyal lackey, Zhu Jiyu, the Vice Minister of Justice, came to the residence and whispered, "Sir, a mountain fire broke out in Yiping village, and no one in the village survived. Everyone who knew Rong Yang has been dealt with. You can rest easy now, sir." Zhu Jiyu was only focused on boasting about his achievements, not noticing that Xiao Yuming had already turned pale, the veins on his tightly clenched hands bulging, fearing that the truth might come to light in the future. Xiao Yuming decided to go all the way and silence everyone in Yiping village. When one man gains power, even his chickens and dogs perish. Is there no justice left in this world? Just as Qing Chen came over with some pastries, Xiao Yuming suppressed his emotions and said, "I am discussing official matters with Lord Zhu. Please go back and rest, my dear." After Qing Chen left, Xiao Yuming drew the Shangfang sword enshrined in the main hall and stabbed it into Zhu Gu's abdomen. In Zhu Gu's widened pupils, Xiao Yuming, still unsatisfied, like a madman, pulled the sword out and stabbed it in again. Zhu Jiyu became a pile of mud. When his body was dragged out, the room was filled with a nauseating smell of blood. "My lord, how should it be handled?" Xiao Yuming had bloodshot eyes. His sword clattering to the ground, he panted heavily and said, "Zhu Jiyu coveted my beloved concubine and intended to commit an indecent act, so I killed him on the spot. Lord Zhu has always been loyal to you. If others find out you killed him with your own hands, won't it chill the hearts of the other officials?" He curved his lips into a smile. "No need to keep it secret. In fact, spread the word, let them know that following me doesn't necessarily lead to a good end." Yes. After hearing this, my heart could not calm down for a long time. That day, I witnessed Zhu Jiyu being killed. And Xiao Yuming's ruthlessness frightened me so much that I couldn't sleep all night. But sometimes it's like this, what you see isn't necessarily the truth. Xiao Yuming is not Xiao Yuming, and the person he brutally killed got what he deserved. Not even 10,000 deaths would be enough for him, my lord. Why not kill Xiao Yuming and Jiao Mingyuan first? I said. Killing them is far from enough, Rong Yang said, holding me as we sat on the soft couch. I want the treacherous officials to confess and face justice. I want the truth about the imperial examination fraud and chaos to be revealed to the world. I want all the corrupt and scheming individuals to have nowhere to hide. I want to see justice triumph over evil with my own eyes. And I wish for peace and order to return to this land as soon as possible. Good, I nodded with a smile. My husband is a man of great aspirations. You once said you wished to stand high in the court and benefit all under heaven. Though we are dead, we can still do these things. I comforted him. Whatever you wish to do, I will be by your side. Greatly encouraged, he cast aside his earlier despondency, gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear, and said with a smile, "You are right, my dear. Though we are dead, our ideals live on. Xiao Yuming has many followers. I will dismantle their influence piece by piece. I have already gathered evidence against Xiao Yuming and his associates. When the time is right, I will present it." After a moment's thought, I asked, But is it to wait until the day Jiao Mingyuan and the princess get married? My lady is truly wise and perceptive. That night, the bright moon hung high in the sky, illuminating the entire capital with a clear, radiant light. I absolutely refused to sleep with him, and Rong Yang looked utterly aggrieved. Blushing, I said, Xiao Yuming's body is old and rough. How could it compare to your originally young and handsome one? All these days I've been holding back, but you've been unrestrained, not caring about my feelings at all. Well, he swallowed, this body isn't yours either, so neither of us is at a loss, but the joy still belongs to us. I couldn't bear to listen any longer and pinched his arm. Stop talking. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, the emperor's younger sister, Princess Yusue, was getting married. And the emperor personally visited the Rome residence. As the most favored concubine of the Grand Secretary, I followed along. Just as the newlyweds were about to bow to heaven and earth, the Grand Secretary suddenly interrupted. If there is a good deed, reward it, and then praise and admire it, so as to rejoice in its beginning and encourage its completion. If there is a wrongdoing, punish it, and then show pity and discipline, so as to abandon the old and open the new. From sutures on the utmost sincerity in rewards and punishments, the music of strings and pipes came to an abrupt halt. In the silence of the hall, the emperor looked over in confusion. Minister Xiao, why do you suddenly mention this quote? The chief minister remained silent, turning his gaze to the bridegroom. Scholar Tanhua, would you care to explain what I meant by that? The bridegroom gave an awkward smile, adopting a flattering posture. Your Excellency's words are profound. I fear I cannot grasp their deeper meaning. The chief minister snorted coldly and flung the teacup in front of him, shattering it on the ground. Scholar Tanhua, can you not even understand the very sentences you wrote in your imperial examination essay? The groom's face instantly turned deathly pale, and all the guests were shocked. The chief minister slowly walked up to him, took out a dossier from his sleeve, and declared loudly, the imperial examination was only 3 months ago. Could it be that the third-ranked scholar doesn't even remember the essay he wrote? Come, recite it. The groom stammered for a long while before nervously saying, it's been too long, I can't recall it clearly. The chief minister gestured for someone to bring forth the writing brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. If you can't recall the essay, you should at least know how to write. Write down the sentence I just said. The bridegroom looked at the chief minister, then at the emperor. Left with no choice, he tremblingly picked up the brush and wrote a few lines, taking the sentence out of context. The chief minister then presented both the imperial examination records and the bridegroom's writing to the emperor. The emperor glanced around and immediately spotted the issue. Why is there such a stark difference in the handwriting? Minister Xiao, what is the meaning of this? The chief minister pointed an arm and declared, because he is not Rong Yang at all. His name is Jiao Mingyuan. Guards, bring his family members forward. The princess lifted her own veil, staring in shock at the person before her, and without a word, rushed to the emperor's side. Brother, what is going on? In the presence of the imperial carriage, Jiao Mingyuan's aunts and uncles dared not lie, and they all began to acknowledge their relation to him, even mentioning how Jiao Mingyuan was once chased by a dog as a child and still bore a scar on his ankle. Seeing that the truth was exposed, Jiao Mingyuan's legs gave way, and he knelt on the ground, weeping uncontrollably. Lord Xiao, you accepted 1 tael of silver and 300 acres of fertile land in Jiangnan from my father, promising me a scholarly honor, yet you still let me fail the imperial examination. Your Majesty, please see clearly. I only wanted to earn a title. I dared not impersonate the Tanhua scholar. It was Minister Xiao who forced me to do this. He forced me. The emperor frowned. Prime Minister, what is the meaning of this? The Prime Minister brushed the dust from his sleeve and said unhurriedly, what he says is true. Xiao Yuming tried to win over the top 3 scholars of the imperial examination. Rong Yang, the Tanhua scholar, refused to collude with such a treacherous villain and was poisoned to death. His body was thrown into a mass grave. Xiao Yuming accepted bribes, substituting one for another. Having Jiao Mingyuan impersonate Rong Yang and taking him into his own service, fearing the exposure of the fake Rong Yang's identity, Xiao Yuming ordered the former Vice Minister of War, Zhu Jiyu, to massacre the villagers of Nanping, leaving no survivors. Xiao Yuming sold official positions and titles, his crimes glaringly evident, his deeds so heinous as to outrage both gods and men, too numerous to record. Rong Yang, through Xiao Yuming's voice, recounted the villain's evil deeds in detail. Many were terrified by his sudden abnormality, and several loyal ministers who protected their lord had already stepped in front of the emperor, exclaiming in fear, Xiao Yuming, are you, Are you trying to rebel? The emperor tightly grasped the princess's hand and whispered, "Don't be afraid." No. The chief minister shook his head, then lifted his robe and knelt down. He solemnly performed the grand ritual between a subject and his sovereign. Jinsha third-rank scholar Rong Yang pays respects to your majesty. May the emperor live 10,000 years. The shock caused by these words was even greater than that from everything that had just occurred. Even I was surrounded by a dense crowd. But it's okay, you mean, you are Rong Yang's ghost. Possessing Xiao Yuming. Yes, Rong Yang knelt upright. I have already died, and my spirit cannot speak to your majesty and the officials. I can only use this method to reach the heavens. Please rest assured, your majesty, I will never harm you. The emperor pushed aside the person blocking his way, mustered his courage, and stepped forward. Standing 2 paces away, he asked, how can you prove it? Rong Yang rose, took up the brush, and with the ink, paper, and inkstone that had just been presented, began to write without any reference. His words flowed like a running stream, completed in one smooth motion. This is this commoner's imperial examination paper. Please compare it, your majesty. The emperor nodded thoughtfully. Everything is clear now. He walked up to Rong Yang, bowed, and supported his arms. Minister Rong, please rise. The mid-autumn festival moon, large as a jade plate, cast its clear radiance everywhere, illuminating the reunions of every household. Yet the imperial palace was far from peaceful on this day. First, the princess's marriage was forced to be interrupted. Then Jiao Mingyuan was discovered to have impersonated someone else and was thrown into the Ministry of Justice prison to await trial. The Xiao residence was raided, and many officials were arrested and imprisoned. In the Dragon Saliva Palace, the lights were brightly lit. The emperor had just finished reviewing the account books of the Xiao residence presented by Rong Yang and listened to Rong Yang's report on the location where Xiao Yuming's private troops were hidden, looking at Xiao Yuming's face. The emperor sighed again and again. You studied diligently for years, achieving the 3rd highest rank in the imperial examinations. I never granted you any official title, nor have you ever received a single grain of the imperial salary, yet you have done so much for me, Rong Yang replied. This humble subject has 2 wishes in this life. First, to live up to my ideals, to put my learning to use and contribute to the nation and its people. Second, to stay by my wife's side for life, never failing her in life or death. What I have done is simply following my heart, the emperor insisted. I wish to restore your status and have you assist me in governing the Great Wei Empire. Is there a way, my dear Minister Rong? Rong Yang smiled bitterly. This commoner is already dead. My great vengeance has been avenged. I cannot stay in this body for much longer. Lana and I should be leaving now. The emperor grabbed his arm. Do not refer to yourself as this commoner. I hereby posthumously appoint you as the Grand Chancellor, and your wife as a first-rank Lady of Honor. I will also find your remains and have you buried together. Rong Yang knelt down and performed the ceremonial bow of a subject to his sovereign. I waited for Rong Yang outside the Dragon's Saliva Palace, watching the moon rise higher and higher. He came out and took my hand. We both emerged from our respective bodies. Xiao Yuming and Qingchen's bodies suddenly lost consciousness and collapsed. The imperial guards pointed their swords at Xiao Yuming. Even though he was already unconscious, he could not escape punishment. Qingchen was escorted out of the imperial palace and did not have to return to the House of Joy. The gates of the underworld swung wide open. After hearing of our deeds, the judge of the underworld scribbled furiously on a piece of paper. Then, Rong Yang and I walked side by side through the Yellow Springs, and on the Naihe Bridge, Meng Po stood waiting with a bowl of soup. Suddenly, a lifetime has passed. Though there were regrets in this life, it was still complete. The underworld is cool and breezy. A corner of the paper pressed under the paperweight on the judge's desk curls up, faintly revealing the handwriting. This couple is quite good, and their relationship is strong. Let them be reborn into a wealthy and noble family in their next life, and continue to be a loving couple. The end.